In the chamber this week, a cardman's failed attempt to make a perfect city. Spare no expense as you create your own theme park. Learn how to protect your party from the Green Reaper, and a continued discussion of alignment. Also, Cody is back in town, so you know what that means. Quick, cue the boys are back in town. Wait, what? We don't have the rights to that song, but I mean, I was gonna do this whole okay. Well, the original lineup is here with all the original wackiness. All this and more on Fandom Roulette. Hey everyone, welcome to Fandom Roulette. This is Joe.
And I'm Cody.
Oh, Cody,
and guess
you're back.
What? I'm back.
You're back in the saddle again.
I am in the saddle again, and like a cocoon, I have emerged a new man.
Okay.
We're changing the whole show.
Oh, what?
Yeah, everything's changing.
But okay, so what do you mean? What's changing? I'm scared now.
The only thing that's changing is I'm a married man, so all of the ladies, they gotta go over to Joe.
Okay. Hi. Hey. Oh boy. Oh God.
Oh no.
Oh man. If that's how I flirt, that's gonna be that for a very long time.
Oh no.
Oh God. Huh? Oh goodness. Hey Cody. Good job with the wedding.
Oh, thanks.
It was a lot of fun. We had fun. We had merriment. It was good times. And yeah. So what nerdy stuff have you been up to this week?
Well, some of it's gonna be in the video game section, but I've been playing. I know, right? I might as well.
We might as well just drop this bit.
No, but the other thing that I won't be talking about in the video game section is I started another playthrough of Darkest Dungeons because I am a glutton for absolute punishment.
Ooh, how dark are those dungeons?
So dark, so deadly.
It's pretty metal. It's a pretty dark dungeon you got there, Cody.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty crazy.
Yeah, but yeah.
It's been 2 weeks and I've already forgotten this bit.
Forgotten? See, okay, here's the thing. Here's the reason I originally pitched this bit was because I read a lot more fantasy than Cody does.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
And so it's basically just like I like to secretly think of this as Joe's secret grab bag book corner at the beginning of the episode, where I get to talk about like stuff I'm reading,
and I can talk about the games that I'm also playing that are not for the podcast, but I probably will talk about them at some point on the podcast.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So, anyways, what have you been up to?
Well, I started reading again because I lost my library rental of that Long Way to a Short Angry Planet, and it is still delightful. I'm watching Star Trek, and I'm reading a very, very good fantasy book called The Fifth Season, which is very good and also kind of depressing, so I'm balancing it out with slightly happier things, like The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. So that's what I've been up to. Also, I went to your wedding. That was pretty
nice.
cool.
How was that?
It was, Cody. It was radiant.
I bet.
Yeah, I got compliments on my dance moves, so I don't know what they were watching, but
well, I loved the dance moves. I'm not much of a dancer myself, but yeah, some people really cut a rug out there.
Oh man, there were so many rugs that were cut. I was like, what? Who? You might as well start a discount rug store. Oh god, that was bad.
Oh man, you know what's the sad part is I held back we might as well start a rug cutting store. So
oh, so we had a similar joke planned.
Yeah, and both of them were
No, neither of them were great. Yeah. But anyways, shall we talk about history?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're back to the old way, even though we talked about history, although man, they were meandering. Apologies to all the Zoetrope fans yet again for a third week in a row.
Oh god. I haven't listened to the second one, and now I'm concerned.
I mean, it's very brief. We apologize to the Zoetrope fans who we angered, but yeah, yeah. editing is fun, you guys. I respect Cody so much more now because he edits all this mess all the time. Another thing that I did recently was I was at a party, and as I do, I found my way into the new friendship of a person who was interested in both fantasy and history. I was like, man, how does this always
Damn.
happen at parties? And she had mentioned something that I had never heard of before, and we talked about it a little bit, and it was fascinating to the point where I ran home and I wanted to like do research. And another person was like, "You better put that in your podcast." And I was like, "I'm going to put it in my podcast. You can't stop me now." That was a lot of setup for this thing called Fordlandia. So yeah, Fordlandia.
Huh. Fordlandia or Fort?
Ford, Ford, like the car company.
Okay. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought you said, but I was second guessing myself.
Sure. Here's the thing. Henry Ford was kind of a crazy person.
What? I would have never guessed.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like we have like these all these quotes from Henry Ford that are like fun and kind of wacky. Like I think his most famous quote is one that people always point to, which is like the customer can have the car in any color he likes so long as that color is black, because Ford was like the black paint dries the fastest, and so he only made his cars in the color black because it was cheaper for him. But Cody, do you remember anything about Henry Ford outside of the fact that he started a car company?
Well, I remember his brother Harrison Ford.
No, that was no. Oh, jeez.
Can this be my new bit where I just ruin whatever you're doing?
Sure, yeah, obviously. I mean, I'm the one who asks you to like be my like setup, but anyway, Henry Ford was pretty famous for inventing this thing called oh god, now I've lost it. The assembly line. There we go. The assembly line. Which is something that we kind of take commonplace today, but it was Henry Ford, and basically instead of a bunch of people doing all of the things all at once to make a thing, it was one person doing one thing over and over and over again. So just to add a little bit of perspective, like what I mean is, so at the time, cars were very expensive. They were kind of like a luxury item for like the rich and wealthy. And one of the main reasons was that when you would buy a car from like a German car company, actually this ties in nicely to the that race episode that we did.
Yeah, cars.
So basically you would have like a team of like 4 or 5 people, and they would like they would just assemble a car like all together, like on a chassis and things like that. And so cars were really, really expensive. And basically what Henry Ford's major innovation was like, all right, Cody, you're going to put on the left front tire, and you're going to do this all day, every day. So you're just going to put on the left front tire.
Neat.
And it's like, Joe, you're going to put on the right front tire. And all you're going to do all day is going to put on the right front tire. And then other people, like, you're going to put in the engine and things like that. And so one of the things was, this meant that he could make cars much faster, which meant he could sell them for much less money, which was cool because he also had this philosophy that workers should be able to purchase the items that they make. So he paid people fairly
That sounds
decent.
pretty cool.
Yeah, he paid people. He paid his workers fairly decent wages for the time, and because his automobiles were more affordable, then yeah, they were able to afford the things that they were making. But also, Henry Ford was kind of a crazy person. So.
With a brother like Harrison Ford,
Yep,
I mean, come on.
Yep. Get off my plane. No ticket.
What?
Yeah, that was a line from Air Force One, I think it was called.
Oh, you're right.
Get off my plane.
Oh,
it's because I didn't say it grumpy enough. Oh, I'm
yeah.
sorry.
I got so used to the genuine, amazing voice acting that you do.
Yeah, I know.
That when you decided not to do it, I was very concerned and scared.
Can I tell you something, Cody? Not to go on a tangent or anything, but the past couple of weeks, like Terry's just been like staring through the windows longingly. He's like, but why are you not talking about the video games? And I was like, I'm sorry, Terry. This is all animation all the time now.
Oh God, Terry must have been pissed.
Yeah, he's so pissed, in fact, that he might have a completely different voice than the last time we saw Terry.
Oh no.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
know.
I feel like Terry's also trying to get into the voice acting business.
I don't know what you're talking about. Terry does one thing, and it makes video games.
Well, but now everyone's got like multiple jobs and things, so
He
maybe he's
makes
just
those
trying to break into the new market.
he makes those big old arcade boxes that we all know and love so well. You have to go down to your local arcade, gotta drop in your quarters, and you got a Konami code, and
Yeah.
you gotta choose Dazzler in the X-Men arcade game. That's a that's a must. Um,
Man, that is a deep cut to a single arcade game from like the 90s.
yeah,
I love it.
arcades, they're a thing. Uh,
Yeah.
hey, what were we talking about?
You're talking about Henry Ford.
Oh yeah. Um, so Henry Ford was he believed in utopias or like perfect cities. It's just that in his own kind of weird Henry Ford way. And so before I go into the failure that is Fordlandia, have you ever been up to Greenfield Village in Michigan, Cody?
I've been around it, but I haven't actually been to it. I have
Okay.
family that lives up in Michigan, so sometimes I'm in the area.
Solid. Greenfield Village was like this little village that Henry Ford built, and what he did was he took a bunch of like other like historically significant buildings and he all kind of assembled them all together and like set up this little village green and all this and that and the other thing. And like one of the reasons that he did this is because when Henry Ford was growing up, he lived in a society that didn't have like automobiles and things like that, and everything was kind of rural and agrarian. And by the time that he became an old man, because of cars, then he had seen mass urbanization and increased industrialization and all these different things. And so like Henry Ford felt kind of responsible for like the world he had created. And so he wanted to create a more idyllic world for him to walk around in when he was a sad old man. I wish I was making this up, but now it's a museum, and it's a very nice museum. Please don't listen to this episode of Greenfield Village. Um, um, but anyway, so yeah, he had all these like ideas about like creating like a sort of caste style system, and he had all these ideas about like what constituted the perfect diet and what created like the best worker and all these things like that. So he finally got a chance to try out his thing. He bought about 14 uh, kilometers of an adjacent area of the city of Aveiro in the Brazilian state of Para, which was located on the east bank of the Tahoe River. And basically, he had started this. So it's in the middle of the Amazon rainforest. He had started this because he kind of wanted to break the monopoly that the Brazilian government had on rubber production. Because rubber is pretty important for cars. Wouldn't you say, Cody?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty important for cars. Um, and
I mean,
yeah,
didn't we become the rubber state? Didn't you say that? Am
Akron
I
was
making am I making more history up?
No, it's cool. Akron was like the rubber capital of like America and maybe the world. I'm not sure. I know it's definitely the rubber capital of America. But I
Okay.
mean, so like the raw rubber came from Brazil, right?
Got
Um,
it. Yes.
so and then it was shipped up to us, but it was expensive. And so Henry Ford has this brilliant idea. I'm going to make my own rubber plantation down in Brazil, and I'm gonna grow my own rubber, and it's gonna be great. And on top of it all, I'm going to create my own perfect little society. On top of it all, so he had created a completely fabricated industrial town, and it was intended to be inhabited by 10,000 people, so they could cultivate rubber. And it was a failure, pretty bad.
And
Um,
this started Bioshock 1.
you know what? That was a joke that we had made a couple of times while we were hanging out at said establishment, party source thing. Yeah. Uh, God, what is wrong with my brain today?
Man, couldn't you just say a bar?
No, it was a party. It was a housewarming party.
Oh, got
Yeah,
it, got
the
it.
house was so warm afterwards. I was like, man, get the.
Oof.
I don't even know what's happening anymore. So, anyways, in 1926, the Companhia Ford Industrial do Brasil was started working on creating this beautiful little city, and there were going to be some typical American houses, a hospital, school, library, hotel. They also had a swimming pool, a playground, and a golf course. Sounds pretty sweet, right, Cody?
Yeah,
It
everything
wasn't.
you need in your new Bioshock 4 game.
It yeah, Bioshock 4, rubber time.
Oh
Oh no! Oh no! um,
we just gave away the plot to Bioshock 4.
no, I was thinking rubber time has very different connotations to.
Oh no!
Oh, oh no. So anyways, so here's the first thing that was bad, Cody. Henry Ford thought he was smarter than everyone else, and so he had brought down a special type of tree. It's something called like a plantation rubber tree, but the thing was, it didn't actually grow well in the Amazon rainforest. Uh,
Oof.
so they were trying to tap these trees, but they weren't working, and sometimes they would even have to go as early as 5 a.m. to tap these rubber trees. The town had a strict set of rules that were imposed by the manager, so alcohol, women, tobacco, and even football, and by football I assume they mean soccer, were forbidden within the town, including the workers' own home. So they would actually go from house to house to check and enforce these rules. Now here's the
Oof.
thing, Cody.
Strike 2.
Yeah, I know, but here's the thing: the workers were able to like sometimes hijack like little boats to go down to a small settlement that was called the Island of Innocence. It had bars, nightclubs, and brothels. So good job there, guys.
Wrecked.
Um, and then the workers on the plantations were given unfamiliar food, such as hamburgers and canned food, forced to live in American style housing, and most of them were disliked the way that they were treated. Um, so yeah.
So not so good.
No,
Not
yeah.
not not super great.
A brief little tangent because that's never happened before during the history section. Um,
Yeah, go on.
ever. So I took a Caribbean history course in when I was in college, or rather in grad school. And one of the things we talked about was, um, like Europeans would move to like tropical areas, and they would build houses that they were used to. But here's the thing: building like a certain style house in the tropics is not going to be as conducive as you think. Especially because a lot of times European style houses were built to be more beneficial in winter than in summer. Um, so
That makes
yeah,
sense.
they like these style houses don't necessarily create the best sort of cross breeds or things like that, and so I'm assuming that these were like pretty hot and miserable houses to live in, especially because this was before like readily available air conditioning and things like that. Um,
Literally, the bane of my existence would be to live in a non-air conditioned unit.
yeah, it wouldn't be fun, right? Um,
Yes.
okay, and so now here we go. So in 1930, the native workers grew tired of the American food and revolted in the town's cafeteria. Um,
Yeah.
so that was another thing too, right? Is one of the big things that they did was they were like, "Hey, we're going to be serving you guys like different kinds of grains and beans and foods that Ford thought were going to create the best kind of worker." Which is such a weird sentence to say, but hey, that's history. And basically, at first it was served like family style. Then after a while, they started serving it cafeteria style. The workers were not happy. The workers revolted, and it involved calling in the Brazilian army. There were lots of
Damn.
yeah, right. There were lots of like diseases that because they were living in the Amazon rainforest, so they had like malaria, things like that. There were actually no roads to make it to Fordlandia, which I think is one of the reasons why it was kind of sort of forgotten for a while. So the only way you could access it was via river, and basically by 1934, the project was relocated um, about 40 kilometers south. But by 1945, we had started developing synthetic rubber, and then natural rubber just kind of went away. Um, so
No more tire trees.
no more tire trees.
Damn
Uh,
it.
and so the town remained inhabited by roughly 90 people until the latter half of 2000s. Uh, now there's now it's the home of nearly 2,000 people as of 2017, and seeks emancipation. So yeah, and so some of the facilities that they built, they had a water tower, there was a hospital, a sawmill, some workshops, and the American Village, which is 6 houses that have their original furniture, silverware, and even clothes. The houses were claimed by locals, and most items were sold and taken as souvenirs. One of the houses was lost to a fire. So yeah, this was an early example of someone just trying to like forcibly press their vision of a perfect future on people who did not buy what they were selling. Which yeah, pretty crazy story. And I was like, I have to learn more about this. I'm actually still doing research about this. There's a book that I want to find and read. And one last fun little thing: if you've ever read Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, um, he had based his futuristic London on the concept of Fordlandia. So, any questions?
I mean, you got it pretty on the head. I just want to know when the Bioshock Big Daddies showed up and started collecting magic, and when the
Oh,
revolt started.
yeah. Well, here's okay. So here's the thing, Cody.
Okay.
History won't actually tell you this, um, but I have a secret to tell you, which is what Henry Ford discovered in those trees wasn't actually rubber. It was a thing called synthetic. Oh, oh,
Oh
they
no!
got me, Cody.
No,
The,
we've done this bit before, but
it was
no.
the history police. Have we done this bit before? I don't even remember.
It was when we were talking about aliens. You got shot then too.
Oh man. Oh, Cody.
I hope that you get some really cool bullet scars when you heal.
Cody, I see a tunnel,
No.
and at the end there's a blue creature standing there,
Yeah?
and he's got spikes on his head, and he's looking
Wait.
at me,
Oh no.
and he's saying, "Joe, you gotta go fast into the afterlife." Do.
Oh no.
Oh, Cody, I'm rolling around at the speed of sound.
Oh, do you got places to
I
go?
gotta follow this rainbow to heaven.
Oh.
Just
Well, speaking of dying horrifically
Yeah.
and creating your own parks,
whoa! What a
This-
segue,
what a segue into what I'm
Ooh.
going to talk about.
man. This, you know what, Cody? That segue is so smooth that I think it's gonna be the travel wave of the future.
Ooh,
Yeah,
I'm
ooh,
excited.
Goodness. So anyway,
So, anyways,
spare no expense, huh?
spare no expense.
Yeah.
So, it's been a couple weeks.
Sure.
So I've been playing some games, but I wanted to talk about this one for reasons that you'll find very soon.
Okay.
I got to purchase and play Jurassic World Evolution, which came out
Ooh.
June 12th, 2018,
Okay.
which was a couple days before the wedding, which was very stressful because I really wanted to play it,
Yeah.
but I also had a lot of wedding stuff to do.
Sure. Yeah. Lots of wedding stuff.
Yeah. So so I got to play it, and for any of you who don't, it's out for PC, Xbox One, PlayStation 4, the whole kit and caboodle.
Gang's all here. What about
The
the
gang's
Switch?
all here. Well, they're not part of the gang. They're never mind.
What? What?
I love the Switch, but
But-
I
But oh no, look who.
Oh no.
Hey, buddy. This is
Oh.
hey, buddy. This is
Hey, who is this?
this is Mario's third brother. My name is Mike.
Mike Mario?
Mike Mario. I'm the enforcer of the family.
Oh no.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, you knuckle crack Foley sound effects. That's one of my character's traits is I actually say the Foley sound effects instead of actually doing
Oh god.
Yeah. Well, I heard you were talking crap about my little brother Switch.
Oh, no. I love the Switch.
Oh, okay.
It's just the media and most of the gaming world at large has kind of pushed you into your own category.
Neck crack. Who do I need to talk to about this?
I believe Terry's got some information for you.
Hey guys, it's Terry.
The gang's all here.
Yeah. And I'm also here. This is Bill Bioware.
Bill Bioshock.
No, not Bill Bioshock. Bill Bioshock was that guy who read Ayn Rand in college and got it.
Oh, God.
So anyway, man. What a
So anyways, Jurassic World Evolution is And this is funny because I was looking for the developer.
Okay.
And the release date, because I kind of I knew it was the week of the wedding, but I couldn't remember the day. And the genre that Wikipedia has assigned this is business simulation, and I think that is just like the most like unfun characterization for a genre in video games.
No,
but I fucking love it.
Are you? Excuse you, Cody. Are you simulating a business?
I am simulating a business. In Jurassic World Evolution, you are simulating the horrific, hubris-filled ideas of building your own dinosaur theme park.
Oh, man. So, did you spare no expense?
I spared no expense.
Okay.
I wish we could put the, just softly in the background, just the Jurassic Park theme song. So, since we can't do it... everyone just be thinking that in the background.
Yeah, or go to YouTube right now and put on "Theme to Jurassic Park" by John Williams. And then
just put it put the volume down so that you can still hear us, but have that in the background.
And then do that thing that he does in the movie where it's put on a pair of sunglasses and take them off real weird, you're gonna break those sunglasses. You're so angry at that thing you're seeing, but then it's
there are so many references we can make.
It was Oh, trust me, I've seen all of them to a point.
I have seen all of them except for the newest one that came out in theaters.
Yeah, I've not seen that one either. And I don't know if I'm gonna. But anyway.
Yeah. So in this game, if you're familiar with games like Zoo Tycoon, Roller Coaster Tycoon, Sim Hospital,
There's Sim Hospital?
Huh?
What? I didn't know that there was a Sim Hospital game.
Yeah, there's a business simulation game where you run a hospital. I think it's.
Oh no!
It might not be called Sim Hospital. Don't quote me because I never played it.
That might be the most sadistic sim thing you can make.
So in this game, you basically build the theme park that eventually will break, and all the dinosaurs get out, and everyone dies.
Sweet.
Because I named all. My save files were just named Hubris because it would be my own hubris that destroys me. Oh god. That cackle at the end.
I want a little dolphin there.
I know. It scared me a little. I thought you might be in trouble.
I'm good. Oh no. It's another time bullet.
Oh no.
Anyway.
Joe from the future needs to take you out before things get worse.
Oh man. No. Anyway, going on. Carry on.
And I played this, and I'm a big fan of games like this. It's not as good as I thought it was gonna be.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Yeah, I'm a little bummed out. I think visually the game is gorgeous.
Cool.
I think the dinosaurs, they all do I don't. It's not like old business sim games where like you have like three idle animations, so it like looks really boring if you stare at them for a while.
Sure.
The environments are really like think Jurassic World, Jurassic Park, like those that kind of that environment, and like they jacked up the graphics to like to 11.
Uh-huh.
Game looks great. I was really excited to hear before the game came out that Jeff Goldblum was going to play a character that would talk to you through the game. Yeah,
Wait,
right?
Jeff.
Isn't that exciting?
That is exciting. I'm
Well,
going to get. I'm going to
unfortunately,
go buy it right now.
no,
Click, clack,
stop.
click, clack, click, clack, click.
Damn it.
60
It's too
bucks.
late.
Oh, that's nothing. It's a drop in the hat. Click. Oh,
No,
no.
so unfortunately, I don't know what it is, but Jeff Goldblum fucking phoned this one in like real hard.
Oh,
Like there is
no.
just no emotion in his voice. And like he's supposed to be kind of like the sarcastic like I can't wait till this all blows up in your face kind of person, cuz I think the way this game plays out is you're playing after Jurassic World. So like the theme park idea has already failed numerous times.
Sure.
And so you kind of go around and they have like a story mode where they kind of give you an intro park and they're like, here's how you play the game. Two of my gripes is that if business sim games aren't like by nature like super exciting games, like they're very tactical. Like you have to be thinking like
Sure.
consciously about where you're placing things, how much there's a lot to think about.
Uh-huh.
And so I think for these games, the best way to kind of up the ante, since like mechanically they're kind of slower paced,
Sure.
is to really like bump up the graphics and the sound to like 20.
Whoa.
And I feel like
20,
visually they did that, and I was like, it's a very beautiful game.
Uh-huh.
But hearing the same Jurassic Park score or some variation of it, I don't think it's the exact same, but just hearing that over and over again kind of gets a little dull. Like the first time, like my first park, I was like, yes, this is awesome. And then I got to about hour 6 and I'm like, oh, I already started putting on like my own music. I was like already tired of listening to the game.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, of course.
Does it ever get past da 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 da, or is it that in like a constant
Well,
loop?
see that's the weird thing. It never does. Like it just constantly is like da da da, and just over and over and over again. And I didn't understand that choice.
Okay.
No, I think so. Not only are business sims usually pretty slow, like because did you remember playing Roller Coaster Tycoon, right?
Sure.
And there were a lot of like dead moments where like you just didn't have more money to spend to like build a new ride or whatever, so you kind of had to wait for money to show up and all that stuff.
Uh-huh.
There is a lot of waiting in this game.
Okay.
So like the first part is you start off and you can't make any dinosaurs, period. Like you don't have the DNA. So
Sure.
you have to send people out on expeditions and like get paleontologists to dig up fossils so that you can get DNA.
Uh-huh.
So that takes a bit of time. And then they added a whole other sequence where they have to extract the DNA from the fossils, which takes a lot of time.
Okay.
Then they go, oh, wait, you can't make a dinosaur until you're 60% complete with the DNA sequence. And you only get like 5 or 10 at a time. So you have to keep going back and like getting more of the DNA. And then once you finally get the DNA and you make the dinosaur, it's like, then you kind of have to make sure that it's the environment's correct. But the environment really is only, is the area big? Is there water? Is there trees? Like it's very simple.
Okay.
And the only thing that might be a little complex about it is when you try to add other dinosaurs into the mix.
Sure.
Because like some dinosaurs like having big social structures, like big like families of the same type.
Uh-huh.
But some don't necessarily like having a bunch of dinosaurs in the same area. Like there needs to be a lot of open space. So that's really the only part that got like kind of like, oh, okay, I'm finally starting to like tactically think about this because like you can't put like fucking raptors in with your herbivores unless you want all your herbivores to get eaten. And so like a lot of the game is just kind of building the park and kind of getting the right dinosaurs in the right areas because the more unique and the more variety of dinosaurs you have at your park, the more money you make. And the more
Sure.
money you make gives you upgrades and all that stuff. Simulation game. Um, the only thing that I think kind of saves it from kind of those dull moments, because there's a lot of waiting to
Uh
get
huh.
like new dinosaurs and to like, because once you're done getting the DNA sequence and you can finally build one, then you have to hatch one. And like, there's just a lot of this waiting. But what's neat is you can purchase a kind of a ranger station. So like those, like the guys in the jeeps with
Yeah.
like in case like a dinosaur gets sick, you can give them sedatives and whatever.
Mm.
And what's cool is you can actually take control of the vehicle and drive it around yourself.
Oh, that's neat.
So that's like a neat little thing that I haven't really or that really works for this game. I've seen it before sort of with like games like Planet Coaster and things like that where you can kind of ride the rides,
Ooh.
um but yeah, I feel like there's a lot of waiting. And I understand that it's a business sim and that's kind of the point like like cuz I'm trying to remember like Zoo Tycoon and Roller Coaster Tycoon and all those old games that I played and I waited in those games too, but usually what was neat is there was a lot of like customization options to like like oh you can build your park and have a certain theme to it or you can change the colors and there was lots of like little neat customization options for all the rides and all the things.
Uh huh.
The only customization you get in this game is how you build the dinosaur,
Huh.
which costs money. So it's kind of like because like you can research like oh if I put frog DNA in here, his lifespan will increase or whatever, and
Mm.
like it's
Interesting.
kind of neat, but it costs a lot of money. So like at first, it's very much just like, well, I hope I get enough money to build this dinosaur, and to even add to that fact of slowness, if you don't have a full structured DNA sequence, there's a chance that the birthing process fails.
Oh God.
Yeah, so like at one point, I was literally like, all right, I'm gonna build a T Rex, and I was only at 60%, and it cost so much money. Like I think I spent all of my money,
Uh huh.
and then like halfway through, it was like, sorry, the egg thing didn't work, so you just lost all that money, and it was just like, oh, it was very frustrating.
It sounds frustrating very
Um,
bad.
I mean, it's one of those games where if you don't mind a little bit of a slower pace,
Sure.
I think you're going to have a lot of fun with this game.
Uh
Like
huh.
it's you're building a dinosaur theme park. So like there's a lot of those neat Jurassic Park like tropes like like the electric fences that are super tall. There's like the goat feeder where like a goat will just pop up and like the dinosaurs will like chase the goat around and like that increases like the excitement of the park
Sure.
and all that cool stuff. Like there's neat stuff, but I do feel like currently in its current form, it's very slow. And if you're not like if that's not your thing, I would probably wait for like a sale or something. But like if like I said, if you love these types of games and you don't mind a little bit of a kind of a slow burn, then I think this is worth a pickup.
Sure. So I have a laundry list of questions for you, Cody.
Of course.
Because fun fact, I was obsessed with these games as a kid.
Hell yeah.
Uh,
I mean, I like I said, I was too.
I've made this joke before with my sister and I believe a couple friends and maybe you. I don't even remember, but like, they're really like ways to test sociopathy in children.
Okay.
So can you pick up a random like patron and just put them in a random spot and watch them get very angry?
No, unfortunately, there isn't a way to. I mean, I think you can technically break your fences.
Okay.
So you could definitely do something where it like fucks like you could just be like, oh, here's my park, and then all of a sudden you just let the T Rexes go crazy.
Uh-huh. Okay.
But I wish there was the fucking crane where you pick up a person and put them on an island in the middle of the lake.
Yep. Okay.
Yep.
That was question one. Question two.
Yes.
Do they like start you off with like a super easy dinosaur? Like here's a brontosaurus.
You know, it's funny that you chose the Brontosaurus. In my 6+ hours of playing, I still haven't had a like the staple dinosaurs from Jurassic Park don't show up till later.
Oh, interesting.
So you get a lot of like I think you get the scene where in Jurassic Park, the first one, where they're running in the field and there's those kind of like smaller guys that can run really fast.
Sure.
And there's like a bunch of them and they're like herbivores. Like those are kind of your first starting dinosaur.
Okay.
But like the T-Rex, the Velociraptor, those all take a while to get to.
Sure. Okay. Question number 3.
Yes.
Is that a lot of shit? Do you have to clean up the duty?
It is, in fact, a lot of shit.
And then question number 4. And I feel like this is the question that I'm just like... So I know those games don't technically have win conditions, right? As far as I'm aware.
Sure. Yeah.
Is it just like trying to like maintain a park for as long as you can before everyone gets eaten? Or is it like, here's how you definitely get eaten? Like...
Well, so I guess I failed to mention this, and it's worth mentioning. There are like little mini objectives. Like there are 3 like kind of park factions. There's like the research team, and then the entertainment team, and then like the security team. And all of them have their own reputations, and they can give you quests to like, hey, we want you to build this, or hey, we want you to get this many people in the park. And the more you complete quests with the certain factions, the higher their reputation gets, and you can get kind of rewards for that.
Okay.
But every time you do that, the other factions go down. So, and if you keep them too low, there's a chance that they'll later on sabotage your park by like turning off the power. And yeah, so there is later on like a kind of delicate balance between doing the quests and stuff like that. So there's certain win conditions. So they take you like throughout all the islands as kind of scenarios. And so like the first one, they're like, just build the park and get this many people in the park. Pretty simple. And then the second island's like, this island's all fucked up from the storms. We need you to build basically a storm-proofed area with other shit going on. And then so on and so forth. So there are kind of win conditions, with the final map being kind of like a literally do whatever you want. Like there's not really an objective, just like have at it.
Interesting.
So, but yeah.
So
yes, there is definitely ways to lose your park.
Those are my major questions.
Nice.
Middle section time. Middle section time. Come
Middle
to our treasure and stuff. Middle section time. Middle section time. Please don't sue us, John Williams. I make that joke a lot.
Oh no.
Hi guys, welcome to the middle section. This is the part in the middle where we tell you things.
Yeah.
Hey Cody, if someone were to like just want to really ask us a question, they're like, man, I want to know Joe and Cody's opinions about those things. Where might they find that information?
Well, they can tweet us at fandomar_podcast. That's your territory.
Yeah, which is not working.
Right. We had found a technical hiccup, and so Twitter. Not that we couldn't see tweets and stuff before, but now is the time. The time is now.
Now it's happening
for tweets. However, what has always been working, if you're looking to send us a question or have anything you'd like us to kind of like re-go over, because we kind of don't have a whole lot of time to talk about all the things,
Yeah.
you can email us at fanroulettepodcast@gmail.com, or at the very bottom of our website at www.fandomroulette.com. You can send us a question through our little questionnaire box. We're also on SoundCloud and iTunes, so please do all the ratings and the likings and the subscribings. We would greatly appreciate it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. Will section.
So, before we move on to the RPG section,
Yeah.
I had... Wait. Oh.
Oh.
Oh, what's that smell?
Oh no.
Oh, it's the garbage kid section.
Oh no, Kelly's attempting a bit. Abort it.
I couldn't handle it.
I
couldn't do it.
That was actually better than like any bit I've ever pitched on this show. So,
so guys, off in the corner, I have this garbage bag filled with a NPC that hopefully you can use in your games, because we love making these. These are so much fun, and this week's is gonna be a hoot. So this week,
is it a Kenku?
No, I wish it was a Kenku, actually.
Gonna be a hoot.
I wish there was a little bit of like if I could get like a garbage bag and like ruffle it a little, like open it up. I'm like, we this week have King Mad Chanter, the human bard.
Whoa. Go on.
So King Mad Chanter knew who their parents were and was born in a brothel.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. King has 2 younger siblings and lived with a single mother because the father disappeared to an unknown fate.
Uh-huh.
The Mad Chanter family lived in a comfortable home in a village out in the wilderness.
That's nice.
Yeah. King had few close friends and lived a pretty ordinary childhood.
Cool. I like ordinary childhoods.
Me too. King became a bard because they wanted to learn old lore, the secrets of magic, and the art of performance.
All right.
King wrote The Pirates of Luskin, which is the first-hand account of being kidnapped by sea reavers as a child.
The Pirate of Luskin.
The pirates, plural.
Oh, there's a lot of them.
Yeah. King's signature instrument is a mithril horn made by elves.
It's got to be really difficult to play the thing.
And then King's biggest embarrassment was when their wig caught on fire, which in turn set the whole stage on fire.
Okay.
It's pretty crazy. But hold on, we're not done yet.
Oh no.
King is 20 years old.
Good age.
And had one life event leading up to this moment, besides what I just said.
Aww.
King was transformed into a toad and remained that way for 2 weeks.
What?
There is a table called Something Weird Happens, and you only get to roll on it when you roll in 100.
Oh, wow.
And I rolled in 100, and it was fantastic.
Sheesh.
So, let me put King, get back in there. Do you like my sound effects for throwing some garbage away?
Yeah, I liked it. It was really nice. I liked it quite a lot. Good Foley work.
I know. I'm starting to become the master of this, I think.
I want to meet that guy.
Right?
Yeah.
So, this week on the role-playing game section, I actually had a pretty technical question.
Okay.
Which I think we can answer pretty quickly.
Well,
and if we have time left over...
You don't know, Cody.
It's true. We could go on. But if it is quick, we could go back to our alignment situation.
Well, I did promise it in the intro that we were going to talk about alignment at least a little bit, so...
It's true. So, it's a 3-part question.
Okay.
If my party members die,
Uh-huh.
which I assume means unconscious, and I perform a successful medicine check with my first aid kit to stabilize them,
Uh-huh.
will they come to consciousness?
Ooh.
The second question, if they pass their checks and become stable, are they unconscious, or are they awake?
Ooh, very interesting.
And then finally, how do healing spells affect someone who's effectively downed?
Okay, cool.
So,
All right.
this question it came to me from someone who had said they had seen it a lot, and I've also seen it a lot. And I think there's this common there's this thing that we like to do.
Uh-huh.
And when I say we, I feel like it's just kind of the collective, like our like role playing game community.
The royal
Is
we.
if you see something happen in a game,
Say something.
that's just kind of canon.
Okay. Yeah.
So like you know how like sometimes there's house rules, or maybe somebody did something but like didn't explain why they were able to do that, and then that kind of just becomes the norm.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
I feel like that's what happened with character death, or like this kind of nebulous fifth edition, like what happens when you go unconscious.
yeah, which is, I believe, the first time they implemented death saves, or am I wrong?
Yeah, so for a really long time there was just like a negative score that you couldn't go under, or
Yeah.
otherwise you died, and there were a lot of like weird kind of, I don't want
Conditions.
to say arbitrary, but mechanics to get yourself out of the negative.
Yeah.
In this game, if you go down to 0 hit points, which is your collective health,
Uh-huh.
you go into unconsciousness, and you do what the game is often referred to as death saves.
Yes.
You can find this on page 197 of the player's handbook.
Damn, just dropping all that knowledge.
Right. So the first question: performing a successful medicine check and using a healer's kit, will it? You know, if you use it to stabilize them, will they become conscious? To answer that question,
Uh-huh.
unfortunately, no. Healer's kits do. Well, it's kind of a two-parter. One, healer's kits don't require a medicine check. They just automatically do the thing they're supposed to do, which is to basically spare someone from like bleeding out.
Uh-huh.
And they don't bring people back from consciousness.
Interesting.
However, the reason that is healers kits are kind of a useful tool for low level parties who may not have access to healing magics, or nobody picked up spare the dying. And it's always, in my personal opinion, if anyone has a healer's kit, like it's just always good to be like, I don't have to make a roll to save somebody, I can just do it.
Uh-huh.
Also, if your game allows feats, there is a healer's feat,
Uh-huh.
which basically allows you to, once you have the feat, bring someone back to 1 HP, which effectively brings them back to consciousness.
Whoa.
So that kind of answers the question, kind of the long way around. Is
Sure.
no, healer's kits don't do that,
Okay.
but they can. They just need feats, and some games have them, some don't. Either way. Then the second question: if they pass their checks and become stable, are they conscious, or do they become awake? And in the player's handbook on page 197, it states that they are unconscious until 1d4 hours and gain a hit point after they wake. Any healing would bring them back to consciousness. So, like if you force feed them a potion, somebody casts a spell that heals, those things will bring them back immediately.
Interesting.
However, the same applies to damage. If somebody hurts them while they're unconscious, they go back to doing death saves.
Huh.
And they don't wake up until 1d4 hours later. Usually that's up to the DM. I think they roll it and let you know, like, hey, you were unconscious for this long.
Sure.
At least that's how I do it. Maybe they do it some other ways. I'm sure there are millions of ways to do it. And then the last question: how do healing spells affect someone who's effectively downed? Well, they're brought back from the brink of death. I mean, that's kind of the what's the word I'm looking for? It's kind of like the reason like healing magic exists. Like besides just healing wounds, it's kind of like that. Oh, they're bleeding out. Like I can bring you back from death's door.
Okay.
And I think there's a lot of issues here because, my personal opinion, I think in 5th edition, death was created to be kind of very weak and hard to stick
Okay.
with players. Unless you're super vigilant about making your encounters tough and doing all this or making custom rules to kind of enhance it. I think it's done on purpose because I feel like 5th edition has become more accommodating, I guess is the right word. I think
Yeah.
it's, they made it a lot easier so people could jump in, and then death isn't so wonky. There aren't a whole lot of mechanics. Like, it's literally just, if you save 3 times, you come back. If you fail 3 times, you're dead. Like, it's super simple.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why people have, and I think that's why people get so jumbled up, because everyone's just kind of like, nah, fuck that. I want to do something different with my death system. Like, I even do custom shit.
Uh-huh.
So I think that's where the problem is. But to answer those questions, that is how on page 197, and then the healer's kit information is on 151. Those are the rules as written / it probably intended.
Uh-huh.
But I think that death is kind of weak, and it's weak on purpose. Like, you are technically heroes, so death should be kind of difficult.
Sure, unless you're Boromir.
Well, I feel like if Lord of the Rings was a D&D game, like, when Boromir gets iced, everyone was still, like, level 1, level 2.
Yeah.
And then literally after he died, everyone leveled up to, like, 3 and 4.
50. Yeah.
Yeah.
Could I say a couple of things real quick?
Absolutely.
Sure. So I found myself on YouTube.com. It's a website. Joel and my successful rebranding of YouTube.com. It's a website. And I found this video where a person was talking a little bit about healing in 5e, and they were kind of arguing that it was a little bit broken. And I was kind of scrolling through the comments, which I know never go to the comments, but I saw one that I thought was really interesting, and I wanted to get your take on it. Which was, the person was basically saying, like, hey, 5th edition might make healing a little bit easier and death a little bit harder, but I think that that's, like, a throwback to D&D kind of being part of and coming up alongside of, like, war mini games, whereas what 5e has effectively done is continue to turn it into a more, like, collaborative storytelling thing instead of a DM versus party dynamic. But I know it's something we've talked about before, which is not to say that, death should be impossible, because, like, if there aren't stakes like that, then it's not, quite as fun or as meaningful. But I just thought it was kind of interesting that it was like, they're making it a little bit harder for your character to die to continue making it the best collaborative storytelling playing experience you can have. So, would you buy that?
Yeah, I buy that. I think part of it is there are way more interesting ways to, like, really penalize your people than with death. I think death is, well, yeah, I do believe there needs to be some kind of danger of death. Like, I personally, in my games, like, if people are getting unconscious and people have to worry, like, oh, am I going to get to them in time before they die? Like, then I feel like I've done my job. Not necessarily past that point where it's like, did I kill someone this session? I did a good job. Like, that's,
yeah.
I feel that kind of goes back into that DM versus player mentality. Because, like, personally, in my games, I'm rooting for you guys.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I do have to, unfortunately, punish you when you do things like run out in the middle of the road while someone's waiting to ambush you.
Yeah, who would do that?
But I don't know. But
like
if someone was to do something so silly, I am going to throw a punishment your way. It's not always going to be I throw a million dudes at you.
You throw a million spiders at us, so.
It's true. Probably 2 million spiders.
Shit, that's a lot of spiders, Cody.
It is a lot of spiders.
We're level 10, we can handle it.
Right. So, I think it's one of those... I like the way it's set up. I think that things around it could use little tweaking. Because... And I think it comes from, like, player habits. Like, if you don't like because a lot of what people complain about is, like, there's really no incentive to try to heal somebody back up from the brink.
Uh-huh.
Like, as long as they get back up and you have more healing spells, then it's not worth it to, like, I cast a really high powerful spell when I can cast a lower spell and keep casting more, because the only drawback is death.
Uh-huh.
Or is the death save that you can just bounce back from. Which is why, for a while, I was using what I like to call system shock,
Yeah.
where it was, if you die, or if you fall unconscious the first time and come back up, that's cool. But every time after that, you start to suffer levels of exhaustion because your body isn't. I tried to add a bit of realism, but honestly, as soon as I put that rule in, my groups have been severely like, oh, we should definitely not keep you low. Like, if we're going to heal you, we're going to try to heal you all the way.
Sure.
So I think it's just like kind of these weird player habits that kind of feel cheesy.
Uh-huh.
And people like to call it the yo-yo effect, where if you cast Healing Word, and even if it's only 1 hit point, it doesn't really matter because you can just pop them back up on your next turn anyways.
Uh-huh.
So with a mix of system shock and having your turns re-rolled every turn, so like you're not always running in the same position every turn, I feel like I've broken you guys away from doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or like kind of metagaming, like, oh, I'll just pick them up later. It's very much like, no, if I wait, like if I wait, it has to be for a very important reason.
Yeah.
So I think they're like, and that's the beauty of Dungeons and Dragons in general, is like there's a lot of really simple ways to make things interesting without kind of breaking the game on its own.
Sure.
So those are just my personal thoughts on it.
Yeah.
I agree with you with your thought, but there are ways to get players to kind of get out of that metagamey, like, you know, exploiting the death system. Because I think that's the real problem, is people exploiting how character death works in this game.
Yeah. Shall we talk about alignment a little bit more for just a little bit?
So for the last time you and I talked, we talked a little bit about the good section of the alignment grid.
Was that the last time we talked?
I think so.
Right. Yeah. Whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So we talked about good characters. Boring. Just kidding. If you don't play a good character, that's your prerogative. So now we're going to talk a little bit about neutrality.
Yeah.
So neutrality, I think, is kind of an interesting concept.
Yeah. I mean, on one end, it's really just morality is out the window. Like, you're not necessarily good, you're not necessarily evil. Like, sometimes it could be considered like, you know, just stay the fuck away from me, kind of a thing. Like, stay out of my life kind of situation. But it also could be the balance. Oftentimes neutral characters who, like, when neutral being good versus evil, could be, you know, there is a necessity for all good and evil. And if you don't balance it, like, Mordenkainen is a good example of a neutral person.
Okay.
But we should probably start with lawful neutral.
Yeah. So yeah, lawful neutral, I would argue, is would be like a judge. So
yeah,
mainly because a lawful neutral character, in theory, it would be like a person who should not let their own opinions sway their decision-making process, but they very much want to uphold the laws of a civilization, right?
Right.
So
go on.
So like, they're not good in that it's like, you know, they're not good in that it's like they're fighting very hard for, like, if they perceive someone to be a criminal, they will not throw them away immediately. And they're not evil in that it's like, oh, well, we can make this good person suffer. It's just that, did you break the law? Prove it to me, or don't prove it to me. So
yeah, I think a good example also is, like, if you're a you know, part of the justice system. So you're a police officer,
Sure.
and at times they're going to arrest like robbers and murderers and like really awful people. So they appear good.
Mm-hmm.
However, they may also put somebody in jail for maybe they didn't pay their rent and they're kind of squatting and they're doing something illegal.
Sure.
Like maybe that person was poor and couldn't afford it, and like it seems evil, but to them it's just the law.
Yeah.
A good pop culture example.
Yes.
Judge Dredd.
Yeah, he is the law.
He is the law.
And I think like that. Did you see the Judge Dredd movie starring Carl Urban?
I did not.
Oh, dude, you gotta watch for Grab Bag next week.
Okay.
You down for that? You think we down for that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it on something that we can?
We can look that up later.
Okay.
If not,
Yeah,
I think.
yeah.
Like there's like scenes in Judge Dredd where it's like, yeah, it's like, oh, like you broke the law, so you're going to an isopod, and it's like sometimes like people will be like, haha, good job, and it's like, yeah, well, you just jaywalked to like congratulate me, so you also technically broke the law, so jail.
Wrecked.
Yeah. So yeah. So after that one, we got True Neutral, which I think is a very interesting one.
Yeah, I think this is. I think most people probably just call it neutral.
Yeah.
Or neutral
That's,
if you're feeling sassy about the grid system.
That's the old school gamer in me is True Neutral. So
right. I know at least in older editions, druids were like had to be like there was a
condition
like they were required to be true neutral, and I think that was up until about third edition because I remember they still have some of those like you can't hold metal objects and things like that in fifth edition, but like in terms of but yeah, like druids are.
Wasn't it like barbarians couldn't be good? Like they had to be either neutral or evil?
I'm not sure about barbarians, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I thought there was some weird thing with them where it was like they couldn't be certain alignments because it just wouldn't make sense for like a barbarian to be like X alignment. But anyway.
Sure. Yeah. So true neutral. I feel like I know we have differing opinions on true neutral, so I want you to talk first.
Let's get this fighting going.
Yeah.
I feel like playing a true neutral character is an incredibly heightened and lofty task. I
can agree with that.
Just because I feel like it's very hard for us to be a truly neutral player. In that it's like I feel like we all come to the table with our like own kind of worldviews and things like that, and sometimes we can uphold them and sometimes we can fight against them and things like that. And obviously we're playing characters, and we're playing characters that might be reflections of ourselves or differ from ourselves, or sometimes leave it at the table, things like that. I feel like it's just really difficult to play a neutral character because something might happen that upsets you, the player. And chances are your character might react in a way that would betray their neutrality. I would argue I've thought a lot about this, and I've not found a great example of a true neutral character, but I feel like an example of what I sort of see as the true neutral character is like Treebeard from Lord of the Rings, where he's like, he has that line, "Side, I'm on nobody's side because nobody is on my side." So
yeah, that's a good one.
I'm not involving myself, but to kind of prove my point a little bit, he goes and he sees all those trees are knocked down, and suddenly he gets very, very angry, and he betrays his neutrality by going to attack Saruman. So, now I want to hear your take.
Well, I agree with you that it is definitely it is quite an undertaking to be, or at least to stay true neutral. I think you can start there,
sure.
But oftentimes people like to deviate from that path. I think a good example, or potentially a good example, would be something like a mercenary
Okay.
could be true neutral. I think,
Oh, that
or
makes sense.
the example, one of the examples I saw online was a punch clock villain, which was kind of funny. Like a villain who only does the things he does because he's getting paid,
Sure.
kind of a thing. I, th- it's one of those things where it depends on how you view neutrality
Hmm.
in this case. So, like for instance, in Dungeons and Dragons, the quintessential true neutral character is Mordenkainen. He's a
Uh,
incredibly powerful wizard who believes that the world needs to be, or the cosmos. Let's go even further. The whole cosmos needs to be in perfect balance, and that if it ever swayed one way or the other, it would turn into basically this terrible like post-apocalypse kind of scenario. So like one day Mordenkainen would help the angels in stopping a dispute between devils and demons and kind of furthering the angels' goals, but he might also the next day help a band of devils deal with a group of angels if
hmm.
it meant to keep balance between the two. So it really depends. Like
Uh,
I think that kind of trope, like trying to keep balance, is something that could be done and pretty. I would say I wouldn't say pretty easily, but it's definitely something that you could do with not like it's not like this tremendous undertaking. But if you take it to like the other way, where it's like morally you're kind of in the middle, you're not one way or the other, and when it comes to the law, it doesn't that might be difficult because I think eventually campaigns will force you to pick a side
okay. Yeah, that's fair.
by most DMs. I'm not saying that that happens all the time, but I feel like most campaigns will kind of force your hand a little bit.
Sure.
Like it might be hard to continue to stay neutral, especially with your party. Like unless you got a really weird group and everyone wants to be true neutral, which could be a fun campaign.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Like it kind of reminds almost I wouldn't say Suicide Squad, but something similar where it's like you're gonna do things that are either gonna be good or bad in the eyes of some people, but you're doing it to keep balance in the universe, kind of a thing.
Uh-huh.
Like one day you might destroy a whole village, the other you might save a town from a dragon. Like
That would be
that could be a neat
kind of
game,
crazy. Yeah.
right? It could be neat, but I do think I agree with you that it could be pretty daunting depending on how you view neutrality. This is definitely one of those weird ones, but
Sure.
yeah, I know we've had conversations. I would let someone try it. Granted, my view on alignment is you can pretend to be whatever you want.
Yeah.
The world is going to see you differently.
Sure.
And so I do a lot of like kind of reputation kind of stuff. So to me, go ahead, try to, be lawful evil, chaotic evil, whatever you want. The world is going to, you know, deal with you
Uh-huh.
in some respect.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
And then finally, we got chaotic neutral, which is one everyone likes to play because it means you get to be a pirate, man. Yeah, chaotic neutral tends to be characters who are kind of self-serving in a way. So the one I always
Yeah.
see is Jack Sparrow. They really don't care about anyone but themselves. So
Yeah, like free spirits is another like good term for them.
sure,
Um though I don't like chaotic neutral.
you don't like
Um
chaotic neutral. But Cody,
for
it's the one alignment
players.
that everyone plays all the time, always.
Right. But I feel like a lot of times chaotic neutral and chaotic evil are my least favorite because I feel like saying you're chaotic neutral and that's like the thing you're going to do
Uh huh.
tends to devolve into these kind of like you're just some fucking nut job who's like an asshole and like everyone just has to deal with you kind of thing.
Sure.
And while I wouldn't, like I said, I would allow it,
Uh huh.
but I will begrudgingly be like I know what you're trying to do.
Sure. Yeah.
In most cases. I shouldn't say everybody, but
yeah,
in most cases, I am very wary of people who want to be chaotic neutral, chaotic evil. Like, chaotic in general. Like, chaotic good, like, I could see people taking the really good route of that, but it always, to me, it always feels like people are, like, trying to get away with something.
Sure. But yeah, those are my takes on the neutral kind of tier.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think of the three, I think the most interesting for me would be trying to play a lawful neutral character, but that's just me.
Oh, for sure. I totally agree. I definitely want to someday play a lawful neutral, like someone who's just about the law. Because, like, I also think that there could be definitely be some really fun things to do where, like, it's not necessarily that you're neutral about morality, but rather the fact that the law is good. Like, it's just like default. Like, if you follow the law, you are a good person.
Yep.
And that's the kind of mindset that could totally make it very interesting campaign.
For sure. Yeah, I think that would be kind of an interesting one as well. But yeah, so those are our thoughts on neutrality. If you disagree with us, please let us know at all those things you heard in the middle section.
Yeah, please do. We greatly appreciate all the feedback and messages and letting us know that you're out there listening and enjoying yourself.
For sure.
We do this for you guys.
Should we sign off, Cody?
Hell yeah.
All right, well, we want to thank you so much for listening to another episode of Fan Roulette. Please listen to the middle section to learn about all of our contact information. Please rate, review, and subscribe to our show. We really appreciate that. Spread the word, tell a friend, yell at us on Twitter, all those things. I want to send out a big thank you to Joel, who recorded the past 2 weeks with me. Episode 1 is up. Episode 2 should be out shortly. And signing off for Phantom Roulette, this is Joe.
And I'm Cody.
And as always, stay nerdy.
Stay super nerdy.